Welcome back to lesson 2, which is talking about how we're going to retarget characters in Unreal Engine from raw mocap data or raw animation data onto your own character. So if you want to know how to get your own 3D character to use animation data from another character, this is the tutorial that's going to explain it to you. So I'm going to be going through a new project, take it from scratch, and show you how to get data in from a perception neuron suit in the first instance. So I'm going to create a third-person template. I'm calling it Steampunk Mech. The reason I'm using a third-person project to start with is because I really want to use the standard Unreal Engine mannequin as the target for sending the animation data. So you have to have a source character, and every time you bring in something new that needs some sort of way of converting. So if you want animation data that's coming with a character, that character needs to be set up again as a source character, as well as the character that you're targeting. So this is my third-person template, and we are going to go right into this and start setting up. So I need a source character. My character is going to be my UE4 mannequin. So I'm going to go and find my mannequin. Now, to get this mannequin ready, we need to build an IK rig for him. So we are going to build that in a new folder. I'm going to go back to characters and create a folder here called retargeting. And everything we're going to build is going to go in here because we're going to have lots of retargeting assets. So the first thing to do is build an IK rig. Going to go to animation, IK rig here. And you've got IK retargeter, a very important tool we're going to come back to later. IK rig. In here, I've got a selection of mannequins already that I can use. These are all the skeletal meshes that have been imported with rigs. And we're going to use the SK mannequin, which, if we check the path, is the one that we were just looking at. If you're importing multiple animations from the marketplace, for instance, and they all come in with the UE4 or the UE5 mannequin, they will all look the same. So it's really important to check the path, which explains exactly where something is. You make sure you're using the right one, because that's when you tend to get a little bit lost. So create an SK mannequin, we'll call it IK UE4, which is my termination for the Manny, or we could call it Manny, which is what they call it. Double click, and we have our mannequin. Okay, all familiar with this. Now, the important thing to remember is that you've got a root and the pelvis. Now, we have to create a retargeting root. This is the root for all of the motion data. The difference between the root and the pelvis is that the root is on the ground. It is always a 0, 0, 0. It is relative to the rest of the rig, only that it stays where it is. That isn't the same thing as the retargeting root for the motion capture data. Okay, so when we're retargeting, we need to retarget from the thing that moves, which is the pelvis. That's the very first bone in the chain that everything else is linked to. That is your retarget root. So we're going to right click on it and go set retarget root. Now, if you had the root at a different point in your map, that is fine. That will always stay constant, and the character will move around it relative to that root. So that root is kind of central to everything. If you were creating a game character, you're controlling the control pad, you are controlling that root there, the actual root of the rig. That is what's moving all around your map. The pelvis is moving relative to that, but all the motion capture data and animation data is usually based on this. And sometimes it's not called pelvis, sometimes it's called hips. So what we need to do is we need to make some chains. Chains are maps that go between the bones. So if I have a bone rig that goes from my shoulder to my elbow to my wrist, that will be my arm bone map. I will do that on the UE4 mannequin, and then I'll do exactly the same map on the character I'm trying to target. So I'll always have that same chain. Now, if I had 5 joints in my arm, say it's a robot that has extra joints, you still create that same chain, and Unreal then does all the work calculating how to map one chain onto the other. If it's only got 3 joints, it'll ignore the other 2, but you keep that chain. So that way 2 different rigs can work together. So let's go through and make a few of these. We're going to start with the spine. So we're going to go all the way up from the pelvis to the neck. We're not going to include the pelvis at the moment. We might have to later, depending on how it moves. But we can stop at the neck, and we're going to do the head separately. So once we selected those 3, we right click, new retarget chain from selected bones, and this will add it to this list down here. Now first we've got to give it a name. We're going to call it spine. And it wants to add a goal. A goal is going to be an object that sits on the last bone of the chain, which you can attach things to. So if you wanted to add a hat, you need to have a goal at the top of the head, which you can then use to constrain an object to. You can't constrain objects or assets to the bones. You have to have a goal attached to it. So we don't want to have a goal on the neck, so we're going to say no goal, and it's going to add the chain in here. So there's the chain, and it has no IK goal, but we could add it later if we want to. Right, now we can do the arm. Now the arm starts at the clavicle. The clavicle is this bone that moves between your shoulder and your neck. Now, do you want that to move in your rig? I would say you don't, because that bit of the body may move on a human, but on this robot, we want it to move from the shoulder. And now the mocap data we're getting has a sensor here, and it has one on the shoulder at the back here, but it doesn't actually calculate how the shoulder moves. So I would suggest not using the clavicle. It's completely up to you. This is an artistic choice. This is where technical art sort of comes in. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, shoulder, elbow, wrist. That is my preferred setup. So new retarget chain from selected bone. We're going to call it left arm. It suggested it for us. And do you want to add a goal? This time I'm going to say yes, I do want a goal, because I want to have a goal on the hand, because that's a useful place to put something like a gun or an object. Now, the first time we create a goal, it wants to create a solver. The solver is a tool. It will live over here in this left screen. That tool is what Unreal uses to calculate movement between bones. So we might have a solver that goes between these two bones, between the wrist and the shoulder, so that as we're moving, the solver is calculating what is going on between there. So it sort of manages all your twists and things for you. I tend not to use them, because if I'm dealing with motion capture data, all that information is coming through raw. We don't need a solver to deal with it, but the goal needs a solver. So we're just going to create a full body IK, add the solver, and now it asks us, do we want to assign a goal? Yes, we do. And there we go. It says it's missing a root bone. Ignore that. Don't worry about it at all. But it's now added a goal in on the hand. We have fingers. We're going to come back to this because they take a long time. So I'm just going to show you one and then pause the video. Let's do the right arm. We're going to go from upper right arm, not the clavicle, down to the hand. Right click, new retarget chain. Do we want to add the new chain? Yes, we do. And do we want to add a goal? Yes, we do, because we add one for the hand. And we're going to assign the goal. There it is. Ignore the fingers. Right, now neck and head. We want this, just neck, head. It doesn't look like it goes all the way to the top, but it doesn't matter, because as long as the whole head moves, that's all we need, just that one joint to be understood. So new retarget chain, we're going to call it head. You can rename these, I usually do, but these are nice naming conventions at the moment. Do you want to add the goal? Yes, we want to add a goal. Do you want to assign the goal? Yes, we want to assign the goal. Thigh, we're going to go all the way down to the bottom of the foot. You could break this into two, but it gets a bit complicated later. But that's a good chain, that goes all the way down the leg and into the ball of the foot. So we're going to new retarget chain from here, and that should be called left leg. And do we want to add a goal? I'm going to say no. I don't think we need one on the foot at the moment. You might want to if you want to add shoes and clothes and things. That's where it becomes useful. No, right. So what's just happened here is it's added two goals. It's added, sorry, two chains. So I'm going to say no to both of these for goals. But you can see here I've got a left leg and I've got a left leg 0. What it is that the first one, because this map here, it sort of goes 1, 2, 3, 4, but there's a calf twist in the middle, and that's confused it. It now thinks that there is two bones. There's that map that goes down here with the thigh twist in the middle, and then it has the foot as well. We don't want the calf twist. Okay, so we can delete these two and do that again. This time, select the thigh down to the ball, and no, just the thigh down to the ball, and remove the calf twist. And I'm doing that by holding down Control. So I've shift selected all of them. Control, remove the calf twist. Now I'm going to right click and do retarget chain. And it's going to be called left leg. I'm not going to add a goal. And there we go. Now we've got a nice straight left leg without the thigh twist in it. Thigh twists are there because whoever's built the rig expects the animator who's working in keyframes in the timeline editor to want to have to twist the bone. It's a very important part of the IK, FK system that's used to control characters. But we're not using it because we have raw data coming in from mocap or the animation data. So we don't need that for this. But if you are trying to build your own character that you're going to hand animate, then you might want your twist in there. So we'll do the same thing on the right leg. New retarget chain. Call it the right leg. Do we want a goal? No, I don't. Okay, and then all the rest of these here are IK handles for controlling the direction of the objects. So this is the basic. This is all you need to make a character move. But we do also need to do the fingers if you want to do finger tracking. The mocap system we're going to use does have finger tracking, so we're going to include that. If your target character doesn't have fingers, then you don't need to worry about this. Now, I'm going to show you how to do a couple because there's a little trick that I use to make it easy to set up. And then I'm going to pause the video and let you do the rest if you're following along. So we're going to take the index of the left hand. That's the right hand. Let's go over to the left. Whoa, a bit too fast here with the camera. So we've got the 3 joints here. So we've got our knuckle, wherever that one is in the middle. Is that the knuckle? Well, anyway, there's 3 joints with the tip on the end. We're going to make that into a retarget chain from selected bone. Oh, it's going to be called left index. Click OK. Do we want to add a goal? No, I don't think there's a need to add a goal, unless you wanted to add a ring on maybe for the ring finger. So now we have a chain for the finger. Now, the trick is that that finger is completely detached from the hand at the moment. It has no relationship with the rest of the body. So when the hand starts moving, this finger is going to be flying around. It actually needs to be linked to the hand. The reason I didn't include it is because it's a bit fiddly when you're getting down to these fingers to go, I want these 3 and that one. And you start control shifting. You can sort of get it wrong. I prefer to do it down here. So once you've created the bones, you've got your first one, left index, and you see exactly the same map, and then you just change it up to hand left. And now that has the correct chain. It feels like the same amount of work either way, but the difference is that I can make sure that I've got just the right set of fingers selected. I can see it's clearly only 3 there. It's called left middle, click OK, no goal. And then when I've finished all of them, I'll just go through and change them all to hand left. And it just is a bit neater, it's less easy to make mistakes. So I'm going to stop the video there and finish off building this chain, and then we'll move on to the next character we're going to target afterwards. Okay, so I've completely rigged up this Unreal Engine mannequin now. I've put all the fingers in. I've got all the right index, right middle, right pinky, right ring, right thumb. And I haven't yet changed them all over here, so I'm just going to do that. I'm going to set hand L for all of these on the left hand, and my right hand is going to go to hand R. There we go. Now I can see very clearly that everything's in the right place and it's all going to the end, and I haven't got my goals and anything there. I will save that. We're closed down now. We're finished with this model for the moment. Right, now we need to bring in our target asset. Now I'm going to bring in a character from the marketplace. I've got a nice collection here. The one that I want to bring in is really quite nice. Steampunk Mech. So I've got to find my project. Remember what I called it now. I called it Steampunk. I've got quite a lot of projects in here because it's getting everything off my NAS. Steampunk Mech. There we go. So I'm going to add this to the project and let it import. There we go. And it will be sitting in the content folder, Steampunk Mech. Let's have a quick look at it. It's got skeletal mesh. It's the most useful thing we have here. So we'll let that compile its shaders. See, very nice. Looks good with a little bit of lens flare and some bloom on it as well. We'll get the post-process volume running. I'm going to turn this camera down because I've been having trouble moving around. There we go. So let's have a quick look at the skeleton, and we'll see that it's very similar to the Unreal Engine mannequin. And that's because there is a standard format that Epic Games tries to use. If it doesn't, that's fine. We can work with that, and we'll try and show that later in a couple of models. So we've got the pelvis, called pelvis, it might be called hips. We've got the same spines, we've got clavicles. So it should be quite easy to remap these. Now, if you're wondering where the animation tools are, why can't I add, right click and add the chain map? It's because we're in the wrong section. I just came in here to show you the skeletal mesh. We need to build an IK rig for this model. Now, it may have imported one when you created it. It's unlikely, but we're going to create one now. So we've got in here the separate folder of all the bits. Ignore that. That's sometimes useful, but we don't need it. What we're going to look for here is a skeletal mesh. So right click. Let's go back actually to our characters folder, retargeting. We're going to put everything in here. Now I'm going to create an IK for our Steampunk Mech. We've got to pick the right skeleton. So I've got all the bits here, all the skeletal meshes for the individual parts. Ignore that. That's a different lesson. That's for when you want to do separate control over all of these. We're going to pick the one that's complete, SK Steampunk Mech skeletal mesh. Call it IK Steam. Double click on that. And now we need to do the same thing we did for our mannequin, for UE4 mannequin. So we're not doing the route for the retargeting route. The retargeting route goes on, can you find it? Pelvis. So we're going to set that as the retargeting route. And then we're going to start creating some chains. And it's going to use the same names. If it doesn't, you can type them in. I would recommend using a consistent naming format, because later on when you does an auto map between these chains, it's going to try and link one arm to the other. Having the same names means it does it for you automatically. If it doesn't have the same names, it's not the end of the world, but you will struggle, or it will struggle to work out for you what goes where, and it might mix it up. And you know, that's fine, it's all fixable, it's just something else you've got to do yourself. So getting the same naming convention in straight away is a good idea. Now I'm sort of talking through as I do this because you've seen this already. It is exactly the same as we did on the UE4 character. I'm assigning goals to the hands to make that nice and useful. We can attach things. We're actually never going to attach anything to the UE4 mannequin. I'll put the goals in there just because it's kind of helpful if we ever want to use it, or it helps us map one character to the other. But in reality, we're never going to use that character in the game. This is our game character. So I'm going to add a goal to the head, just as I did to the UE4 mannequin. This is the character that's going to be in the game, so this is the one that needs to have all the correct components with all the goals that we can attach to. Now this one's also got the same thigh twist in exactly the same place. This does make it a lot easier to explain, but the truth is that sometimes you'll have models that are really mapped out differently. They have different organisations with the rigging. You have to try to build the chain map in a very similar way to the way you built your first one. It doesn't matter if you're using different names or different combinations of bones. It will work. Right. That's that. And now I'm going to pause the video while I do the fingers, because you don't want to watch that. It could be a bit dull. Okay, so I've added in all the fingers, so they've all been labelled. Right ring, right thumb. There's a set of 3, but you notice that I've gone down and added in the right hand, so we have finger and then the hand joint, so it knows where it is. And that is now identical to the other model that we have. I'm just going to double check, we've got the retarget route. Okay, so now we finish with that, we close that down. Now we shouldn't need to touch the IK rigs again, unless there's a problem, which means we'll probably have to touch them again. So to get IK UE4 to talk to the Steampunk Mech, we need to build a retargeting asset. And if we have a look at this Miro board again, just see where we're up to. We've got our target character skeletal mesh. We've built an IK. We've got the animation source, which is our UE4 mannequin. We built an IK for that. We've done the chain mappings for both. So they've both now got identical chain maps. We now need to create the retargeting asset that it controls. So to do that, we right click, go back to animation, and we did see it earlier, IK rig, IK retargeter. Now, every time you do a retarget, you're always going to have to choose a source first. So in that case, it's a UE4 mannequin. Okay. Now there's 2 in here because there's the one we built and there's the one that they built. That's already come in. So there's IK underscore UE4 underscore mannequin in the game characters mannequins UE4 rigs folder. That isn't our folder. We don't want that one. We want this one. And yes, you can see it sitting next to me anyway. So game characters retargeting. That's why it's useful to build your own folders and start from scratch. We know that all the chain maps in this rig are correct, and the other one probably hasn't even got chain maps. So let's build this RTG underscore UE4 for our UE4 mech, so we know which rig we're coming from. And at this point, all of our retargeting tools, if we had multiple characters, they'd all look the same at the moment because they always start with the same source, that UE4 character. And we're going to send it to Steampunk Mech. So we now create our retargeting tool. Let's double click on this. And there is our UE4 mannequin already put in there. So we could change this if we want to, but it's done it for us automatically. IK UE4, and we're going to target our Steampunk Mech. So let's select that. There it is. Now automatically it has come in and found. Okay, so next to asset browser we've got chain maps. All the chain maps that we created, they've all been linked in. So the target is our Steampunk Mech spine, and the source is the spine of the UE4. And because the naming convention is the same, you see everything is pretty much the same, but we're going to check anyway. Right arm, right goal, right index. If it isn't, we click on this and we have to find the right one. Right pinky, right ring, right thumb, head, left leg, right leg. So everything is in exactly the same place. Sometimes you find it might try to put a right arm on the right leg position or left leg on the right leg because it's seen the word leg and just didn't know which one to put. And it doesn't matter. You can actually have two left legs. It would not prevent that from happening. So I've got left leg controlling left leg and right leg controlling left leg. Also, other way around. In this case, left leg is controlling both legs at the same time. So you'd be running with two legs going at the same time. Not what you want. So make sure that all of these are correct. Okay, the way to know if it's going to work or not is if you go to your asset browser, any animations linked to your source, that's the UE4 mannequin in this case, will appear here. So if you imported an entire collection of animation assets from the marketplace, they will all be linked to the asset that you're trying to modify, and all the animations will be here. The animations are always unique to the asset that they were made with when you imported them. So if you brought in that UE4 mannequin with an animation pack, you will see all those animations. You may have a completely different UE4 mannequin that looks exactly the same, but it came in with a different set of animations. You would need to do all of this again for that animation, right? So you'd have multiple UE4 mannequins. So it's important to label them all correctly, file them nicely, and then you can retarget them all to your final character. So if I double click on this, it should start playing, and there we go. It has retargeted the jog motion from my mannequin onto my mech. So that is effectively the retargeting system built. Now, what we're going to do in the next lesson is try to put this with live mocap. We're going to bring in some pre-recorded data in Perception Neuron, which Axis Studio, which is their editing software. But even though it's running as pre-recorded data, it's going to Unreal thinks it's live. It's coming in as live link data. So we're going to build all of that, and then in lesson 4 we're going to try this again, but as trying to create animation data. So if you haven't got your data here in your animation for the asset browser, how can you convert pre-built animation data into data you can run on the Steampunk Mech? So we'll come back to that in lesson 3.